As Chanakya walked out of the palace, his mind was already weaving plans within plans. He had seen enough of the Nanda administration to know its weaknesses. The bloated nobility, the disconnected military, the corrupt tax system, all would become weapons in his hands. But first, he needed to find the right instrument of change, someone young enough to be molded, yet strong enough to withstand the trials ahead. In a dusty village square, Chanakya came across a remarkable sight. A boy, no more than 12 summers old, was presiding over a mock court session among the children. But this was no ordinary play. He had created rules, established a system of justice, and mediated disputes with wisdom beyond his years. More importantly, the other children followed him, not through fear, but through respect. This boy was Chandragupta, born to humble origins, yet carrying himself with a natural nobility, poor in wealth but rich in leadership qualities that could not be taught. As Chanakya observed him settling a dispute between two older boys with fairness and firmness, he knew destiny had revealed its chosen one. For 3 days, Chanakya watched in silence. On the fourth, he decided to test him. He introduced a dispute among the children over a game of dice. "Young magistrate, how would you resolve this matter?" Chanakya asked. Chandragupta turned to assess the stranger before replying. "First, I would hear both sides. Then I would examine the dice. Finally, I would consider not just who is right, but how to maintain peace in future games." Chanakya was intrigued. "And if one boy is stronger and threatens the others?" Without hesitation, Chandragupta answered, "Then strength must serve justice, not override it. A strong boy who bullies becomes a man who tyrannizes." In those words, Chanakya heard echoes of ancient wisdom. He continued his test. "Tell me, boy, in your mock court, how do you maintain order without any real power?" Chandragupta replied, "Real power isn't in the stick that enforces, but in the justice that convinces. Even the strongest accept fair decisions." The education of a future emperor began before dawn. In a modest dwelling on the outskirts of Pataliputra, Chanakya started shaping Chandragupta's body, mind, and spirit for the throne. Each morning, as the first rays of the sun touched the Ganga's waters, the training began. Wrestling strengthened his body. Every hole taught him strategy. Every counter move reflected political maneuvering. Chanakya often reminded him, when your opponent seems strongest, that is often when he is most vulnerable. The same is true of empires. Then came archery, but this was no ordinary training. Chanakya had devised special exercises. "Shoot, not just at the target, but at the space between heartbeats," he said. "A king's actions, like arrows, must be timed perfectly. Too soon is as fatal as too late." As the sun climbed higher, physical training gave way to intellectual challenges. In a cool chamber away from the midday heat, Chanakya unfolds scrolls of ancient wisdom. "Today, we study the fall of Kosala. Tell me, Chandragupta, what brings down great powers?" But these were not mere history lessons. Each failure of the past was a warning for the future. Chanakya compared it with Magadha's present state. "See how the Kosala king ignored his frontier provinces. Now look at these reports from Magadha's borders. What patterns do you notice?" Mathematics became a tool of governance. If a garrison of 100 men consumes this much grain, and your empire has 50 such garrisons, how do you ensure none go hungry during a 4-month siege? Languages were learned through diplomacy. Now, respond to this merchant's complaint first in Prakrit, then in Persian. Same message, different cultures, different approaches. As the afternoon wore on, governance was taught through real-time problem solving. Chanakya would bring disputes from the city and present them to Chandragupta. A merchant claims his grain was stolen. The accused says he bought it fairly. The witnesses are divided. You have until sunset to resolve this. Economic principles merge with ethical governance. If you increase the tax on cloth merchants, you gain more gold. But if they raise their prices, the poor suffer. Find a solution that serves both crown and common man. As shadows lengthened, master and student walked through the city in disguise. These were the most crucial lessons of all. Look there, Chanakya pointed. What do you see in that temple courtyard? People praying, Master, Chandragupta replied. Look deeper. Notice the whispered conversations in the corners. The temple is not just a house of gods, but a network of information. Every gathering place is a potential source of intelligence. Strategic thinking was woven into every observation. See that fruit seller arguing with the guard? Tell me 3 ways this small conflict reveals weaknesses in city administration. Under the stars, Chandragupta learned the subtleties of statecraft. Knowledge is like a sword, Chanakya said, but wisdom is knowing when to keep it sheathed. Sometimes the threat of power achieves more than its use. The study of human nature was constant. Watch these 5 men I have arranged to meet. Each will lie to you in different ways. Learn to read truth in their eyes, their hands, the shift of their feet. Diplomacy was not just about words but perception. Your words must be like the lotus, beautiful to see, complex in meaning, but rooted deep in purpose. When you speak to the servant, you are speaking to his master. When you address an ally, you are also addressing your enemies who will hear of it. Certain lessons were reserved for moonless nights. A king must know not just the use of poison, but its antidotes, not just the ways of war, but the paths of peace, not just how to rule, but when to appear weak while being strong. He was taught the art of encoding messages. Information is worth more than gold. These 50 ways of concealing messages, learn them until they become instinct. But perhaps the greatest lessons were those that shaped his character. Power without compassion is tyranny. Strength without justice is brutality. A true king must be feared by the wicked, loved by the virtuous, and respected by all. The days ended with philosophical reflections. Remember, Chandragupta, we do not seek power for power's sake. We seek to establish Dharma. An empire built on Dharma will last 1,000 years. An empire built on mere force will crumble with its founder. Thus, step by step, the foundations of the Mauryan Empire were laid. In the hands of a master strategist and a future ruler, history was being rewritten.